Hey guys, my name is Kylie Skye, and today I'm going to be sharing with you a small fragment of my mental health journey with clinical depression and anxiety, and kind of how I believe it came to be in as best of a way as I can explain it, and where I am today with it. I've taken it upon myself to really spread the message of how important mental health is, and to hopefully, in sharing my story, help to continue to drop the stigma around mental illness, and maybe help someone out there in letting them know that they're not alone, letting you know that you're not alone in what you are going through. So I just would love for my voice to be a message, a promoter of mental health awareness and taking it seriously, because it is so serious, and honestly, to me, in my opinion, is the most serious thing and most important thing in the world, because without our mental health, what do we have, really? So this is my story, and it is an ongoing story, of course, as I am still continuing to cope and manage with depression and anxiety, especially with it being clinical, getting diagnosed with clinical depression and anxiety. That it is something that I will continue to work on moving forward for the rest of my life. But to get started, to not make this too long of a video, I don't want to go all the way back to my childhood and share all of those details. I kind of want to get straight to the point where I believe it really started to get bad. And that was around, I would say, almost 2 years ago at this point, maybe a little less than 2 years ago. Right around, honestly, when the whole COVID thing started happening, the pandemic, and I know that it's affected so many people, and it affected me in a different way. I don't really believe it was COVID or quarantining or anything like that that really triggered me. I believe it was just this overall energy of how the world was changing, and the fear that was really being put on and placed on a lot of people around the world. And for whatever reason, I started getting really bad, in a really bad place mentally. I was pretty well off before this year and a half. Like, I would get triggered, and I would get very disappointed in myself, and I would feel like a failure when I wouldn't achieve the goal that I had put in place, like many of us. But it never got to the point of really deep depression. And as you can tell, I'm like trying to choose my words carefully, because if you've personally struggled with mental illness, you know how it's really hard to put into words, how it's really hard to explain exactly what it is that you're going through and that you had gone through, especially with it being such a dark period of your life. So doing the best I can with that. But one thing led to another, and I started noticing myself getting in a more dark and emotional state of being. I would get more triggered by things, but instead of getting angry, it started bringing me into this deep, deep sadness, this hopelessness, this feeling of, what is the point? What is the point of living this life when things keep going wrong, when I don't have enough power to change the way the world is, when everything I do feels like it's wrong or not enough or not up to this certain standard that I believe is placed on all of us. And it's like this cycle of thought, and it just kept increasing and becoming more and more ravenous within me as the days would go on. and certain things would trigger that emotion even more, and then it would put me deeper in it, and it was just this darkness, this dark cloud over my head all the time. And sometimes it would go away, but it would always come back, or it would always be in the background. And as I continued being in this state more and more, it started becoming my natural state of being. It's very negative, very hopeless, unmotivated, tired, angry, aggravated, frustrated. I felt like it was the end. And it wasn't any one thing that was happening. It was just the shift in my brain. The shift that took place that felt like it took all of my happiness and my joy and my motivation and my ambition in life. It took it away from me, and it made me then more depressed to think about that I was doing this to myself. And so, as you can tell from the best way that I can describe it, it got very intense. And I didn't know how to handle it anymore. I got to this point where I was struggling so much day in and day out. I couldn't work anymore. I completely gave up. I didn't feel capable mentally or physically of really doing much of anything. I would still try, and I would complete small tasks, but nothing ever felt like it would be enough. Nothing ever was satisfying. The things that I used to enjoy so much didn't do it for me anymore. Nothing did it for me. I lost all idea of what fun meant. And as you may know, if you've struggled with any sort of depression at any point in your life, if you don't have something to bring you joy, then there isn't a whole lot left that's keeping you to get up each and every day. And so the only thing that kept me getting up was the support of who is my now husband, my fiance at the time. And he was always great, always supportive, always there for me through all of this. And he was really my rock, and he supported me through it all. And he was the reason that I continued to get up each and every day. And I'm so, so grateful for him for that reason and many more. But it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough for me when I was going through this. And it got to the point where I had completely given up. I didn't have any hope that it was going to get better. We tried everything. I was quite a holistic person, and I still believe that I am. So I was very against taking medication, and I was very, stubborn in the sense of I believed that I could get better on my own, that I didn't need therapy, I didn't need anyone to help me get through this. I could do it on my own because I was a strong, independent woman. And that anyone that has to go to therapy or takes medication, that's just because that wasn't for me. That's just because they were weak or whatever, these stories that we come up with in our heads, on why we're like the obsolete, or it's probably the wrong word to use, but we're special and we don't need those things. And so I pushed it off, and I got worse and I got worse, and one thing led to the other, and we ended up, after my first episode of really saying that I think I want to die, I think that I want to kill myself, after actually saying those words out loud and really getting to that point, we made the decision to make a big change and move back to Hawaii. That was at the time. We had lived there previously. That's a whole nother story. But we believed that that would help and it would make me feel better, because that was the last place I remember feeling happy. And so we spontaneously moved back there. We got it all set up, and at first I was doing a lot better, but about a month and a half, maybe 2 months went by, and I started becoming sad again. That cloud, those voices never went away. It was always there in the background, nagging me, chipping away piece by piece. And I started working full time when I was there, and that definitely didn't help, because all my time was being consumed. As you know, those who work full time or work at all know that it obviously takes away from you having time to do more of the things you love and like and are passionate about, and that's exactly what it did. Exhausted at the end of the day, and I started all those dark feelings. That deep depression started creeping back in, and I was just so confused. We moved to Maui and we had our own place, and it was everything that I thought I wanted. It was everything that I thought would make me happy, right? We think all these external things are going to make us happy, and if we have this, then we'll be happy. If we have that, then we'll be happy. If we're here, then we'll be happy. And so I was so confused, because I had all those things and I was still feeling so depressed, and it actually got worse and worse and worse until it got to the point where I was done. I was spent. I felt like a shell of a human. I felt all of those same feelings, but they felt amplified, probably due to the exhaustion that I was feeling, and I just didn't see any hope. Nothing in my head made any sense. The words that were coming out of my mouth, I didn't even believe the words I was speaking anymore. Like, I truly lost all sight of who I was. And it got to the point where I felt like I had to quit my job due to having multiple mental breakdowns on the floor at work. And I was like, set money and finances aside, I gotta take this seriously. So I quit my job, and another thing, I thought, quit my job, that's gonna make me feel better. It'll all be good. It's just because I'm overworked and overstressed. And so I did. And the first week to 2 weeks, I felt better. I felt really good. I was in a good headspace. I had more energy. And I thought, oh, it was just because I was working. Okay. It's all good. It's all good now. And then, without going into too much detail about what specifically happened to honor people's privacy, I had an event, a situation that happened, that occurred, that really triggered me to the extreme, and it was unexpected that this event would have triggered me as much as it did. And after it had triggered me, the emotions got too intense, more intense than they ever have in my life, to the point where I felt completely out of control of my body and my emotions, and I felt crazy. Like, I literally felt insane, and I felt that I could no longer live in this life. And so I went and I took a shower. This is obviously a specific moment, but I went in the shower. I got extremely emotional, It was as if everything just turned black. There was no way, shape, or form that I could think that my life would turn out good. And that little voice of that is normally in my head that allows me to kind of stop thinking those thoughts and shift my point of view into a more positive way was gone. And so I stepped out of the shower and I grabbed the razor blades in my medicine cabinet and I looked down at my wrist. I held it over my wrist and I almost ended my life there. I didn't actually make contact with my skin. I just hovered it over. And at some point of me doing that, I got so emotional and crying and I was shaking. My body felt like it was under attack, attacking itself. And I dropped it and I dropped to the ground and I just completely let go of everything, making sounds and emotions, and it's really hard to put it into words how extreme and intense the emotions were. But for whatever reason, I went over to my bed, bawling, crying, wet hair dripping, and I decided to look up a video to help with dealing with suicide. Those people who thought that it was over, and I just figured, oh, maybe if I hear something or listen to something or watch something, it'll distract me enough to get out of this cycle of thought. And so I did that. I watched a few videos and they really helped. I will try to find them and link them down below because I couldn't get myself to call the suicide hotline. I had it on my phone and I just couldn't. It was like this thought in my head that if I call them, then that means I'm a patient and I didn't want to be admitted. And so instead, I watched these videos and they did help enough to calm me down until my fiance at the time, now my husband, got home and I spoke up to him and had a long conversation and we made the decision together to get me some serious help. And from that day on, I decided to start taking medication, and no matter what happened, whether the first medication worked or didn't work, I was going to stay on the medication or try another one until something did work. We made the decision together to not stop until something worked. And luckily, I'm very grateful that the first medication that I took worked. It worked within a couple weeks and it kept getting better and better. And within less than a month, I was feeling great. I was feeling absolutely fantastic. Better than ever in my life. And since then, I'm still doing really, really well. I do still have bad days, and recently I had to increase the amount that I was taking of my medication. And I want to put a disclaimer, I am not a doctor by any means, so I'm not gonna share which medication I am taking. Well, I guess I can share the medication I'm taking. I'm taking Zoloft, but definitely talk to a doctor to figure out exactly what dosage and what medication is going to work best for you and your needs. If that is something that you feel you may need or you may want to try. You have to speak with a doctor on that. This is just sharing my own personal journey, but it is something that worked really well for me. I started on a low dose and then I increased, and then I just recently increased again as I noticed that it was getting to a point where it was kind of balancing out, and I was noticing still some really bad days. And so I increased, and now I am doing once again a lot better. And I know that this is not the end by any means, that this is a ongoing journey that I will be moving through for the rest of my life. I hope that I don't have to take this medication for the rest of my life, but if I do, I'd much rather take it than deal with the effects of not taking it. And I think it's really important to note that there are so many different forms of mental illness and that it affects all of us differently. For some, for clinical depression, it is a chemical imbalance, an actual chemical imbalance within your head. And for others, it is a period of their life that they are depressed due to a direct situation, maybe a loss of a loved one, or another tragic event. Is maybe a physical injury that brought you to that state of depression. And then once you have moved through it, the medication can help you while you're healing and moving through it, and then you can get a point to where you stop taking the medication. And I believe that people with clinical depression can possibly also get to this point, but for some, maybe they take it for the rest of their lives, and it's really different for everyone. And for me, I'm taking it day by day. I'm going to continue taking them for as long as I feel that I need them. Of course, also with the assistance of my doctor and therapy. So this is my story. And it may have seemed all over the place, but it was honestly the best I could do in a form of explaining kind of how it all came to be. I hope that this story has brought some awareness to your life around mental health. Even if you don't personally struggle with depression or anxiety or mental illness, we all, I believe, need to take our mental health seriously, because we're all going to go through phases in our life of stress and trauma, and different things can happen to us that can affect our mental health in ways that we wouldn't think would happen. I never thought that I would have struggled with what I struggled through over this last couple years, but I did. But I believe truly that I have made it to the other side. I don't think that I will never struggle again, but I feel equipped and more stable in my life, and confident that I will be able to cope and manage with anything, any symptoms or any bad days that may be in the future. So I kind of want to wrap this up and end this video on the note of, if you feel alone, if you are not someone who has a support system, that it can be so helpful, and I believe is a key to growth and evolvement within your mental illness, to reach out to support groups, to therapy, to therapists, to counselors, to psychologists. There are so many programs out there now that can serve you in helping you in this journey of healing and coping and managing and getting you possibly on medication and so on and so forth, and working with you through this journey of healing. So many. There are apps like Cerebral who pair you up with a provider and a counselor. There are programs like Betterhelp that you can talk to a therapist each week. And there are obviously so many telecommunication doctors and therapists and psychologists that you can reach out to. Depending on your health insurance, there are programs. There is the suicide hotline, as well as online chats. There are so many resources out there for you to reach out to if you don't have someone within your family or friend circle that you feel you can reach out to and talk to. And I truly believe too that reaching out to an unbiased point of view, someone who isn't directly in your family circle or friend circle, can be of even more assistance. I know it was for me, having that person to listen to you from an unbiased point of view, someone who isn't like in it with you, but that is looking from that outside view, looking in, can really help. And that's actually inspired me. This whole journey has inspired me to take on a psychology degree. So that's something that I'm working on, and I really look forward to using this knowledge that I gained to infuse it in with my yoga teaching and help more people with exactly this, their mental health, anxiety, depression, things that I've suffered with. And I think it is just so important to take these things seriously. And so I just wanted to end that with on that note, and share those resources down below. I'll have them in the little caption down below this video. And if you feel that this video could serve anyone or help anyone in any way, please share this video with any friends or family or on your page, just to spread more awareness. This is, I'm sure, not the only video that I will share on this topic and on my journey, but I felt that it's really important to start speaking up and not only sharing yoga practices of me, sharing practices and physical practices that have helped me, but to also share my personal story on how I got to be where I am today and some of what I've gone through. So I really truly hope that this served you. Again, you are not alone. I am more than happy to be that ear to listen to you as well. Obviously, I'm only one person, but if you need someone to listen to or reach out to, please, you can reach out to me through here or my Instagram or my email. I have it all attached down below, and I would be happy to send some love your way and to be an ear, to listen and to support you. So I'm sending so much love to you. Thank you if you stay till the end of the video. I really appreciate your time and your energy and your support. I know we all live such busy lives, but I believe this was a very important message to share. So I'm sending so much love to you, and I'm just so proud of each and every one of you for making the choice to keep on living this beautiful life. So I love you so much, and I will see you very soon in the next yoga video. Namaste.